Hollywood is built on dynasties. Families where the spotlight is practically a birthright, passed down from one generation to the next. You know the names. The Barrymores, the Fondas, the Coppolas. In the wild world of action movies, one name practically became its own genre, a symbol of broken bones and stone-cold justice: Seagal. Steven Seagal. He was an icon who built a legendary, and yes, controversial, career by being the toughest guy in the room. He defined a whole generation of action hero, untouchable, unflinching, and always in control. But what if I told you that legacy of legitimate, bone-crushing combat didn't stop with him? What if his own daughter, a woman who once walked the high-fashion runways of New York and starred on reality TV, is now stepping out of that massive shadow and into one of the most brutal and unforgiving arenas on the planet? This isn't a movie plot. This is the unbelievable and absolutely true story of how Arissa Lebrock traded glamour for grappling, fashion for fighting, and is now building her own legacy, not on a film set, but inside the squared circle of professional wrestling. This is the story of how she's becoming one of the most interesting new faces in sports entertainment. To really get the tectonic shift in Arissa Lebrock's life, you have to understand the world she was born into. She's the daughter of not one, but two larger-than-life figures who owned the late 80s and 90s. On one side, you've got her dad, Steven Seagal. He wasn't just some actor playing a martial artist. He was a legitimate 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, who exploded onto the scene with a style of action that felt dangerously real. His movies, like Hard to Kill and Under Siege, were raw, violent, and showed audiences a fighting style they'd never seen. He was a cultural phenomenon, but also intensely private and, over the years, an increasingly controversial figure. That name carries undeniable weight, a mix of fame, skill, and notoriety. On the other side, you have her mother, the absolute icon, Kelly LeBrock. If Seagal was the definition of hard-edged masculinity, Kelly was the embodiment of 80s glamour. From the fantasy creation in Weird Science to The Woman in Red, she was a screen siren, a supermodel whose face was everywhere. She represented a world of high fashion, red carpets, and Hollywood elegance. Arissa was born right at the intersection of these two worlds: the brutal discipline of martial arts and the flawless perfection of high fashion. It sounds like a Hollywood pitch, but in reality, it creates an impossible shadow to grow in. How do you carve out your own identity when your father is a legendary fighter and your mother is a legendary beauty? Every path seems to lead back to one of them. Their divorce in the mid-90s was famously public and messy. In response, Kelly LeBrock made a huge decision. She moved her kids, including a very young Arissa, away from the chaos of a quiet ranch. She wanted them to grow up around real people, far from the constant glare of the tabloids. It was a shot at a normal life, but a name like Seagal and a face like LeBrock is never truly normal. Arissa grew up knowing that no matter what, she'd always be Steven Seagal's daughter or Kelly LeBrock's daughter. It's a label that opens doors, but it can also feel like a cage. The expectation is that you'll follow in their footsteps, but you'll also be endlessly compared to them, a paradox she'd have to navigate her entire life. Number 2. The gilded cage of high fashion. At first, Arissa gravitated toward her mother's world. It was the more obvious path, the one people expected. Inspired by watching her mom at photo shoots, she stepped into the modeling industry. But she did it completely on her own terms. Arissa didn't fit the rail-thin, traditional model mold. She was strong, curvaceous, and powerful, a physique she credits to her father's side of the family. Instead of changing herself to fit the industry, she worked to change the industry. She became a successful plus-size model, a voice for body positivity in a field known for its rigid standards. She landed campaigns with major brands and appeared in magazines. Her journey was even documented on the 2017 Lifetime reality series Growing Up Supermodel. which followed the lives of celebrity kids trying to make it in fashion. The show put her on the map, but it also showed the struggle of trying to be seen for who you are, not just whose kid you are. To the outside world, she was a success. A model and reality TV star making her own way. But underneath it all, a different passion was brewing. A grittier, more demanding calling was taking hold, one that had less to do with her mother's glamorous legacy, and a lot more to do with her father's world of disciplined combat, but in a form she would make entirely her own. She was making a point in the fashion world, but she was about to find a place where her power and her unique heritage would become her greatest weapons. Number 3. The pivot to pain, a new path forged in a GI. While the cameras of growing up supermodels saw a fashionista, the gym mats at Paragon Jiu-Jitsu and Kickboxing Academy in California saw something else entirely, a dedicated and formidable fighter. Arissa had quietly thrown herself into the world of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This wasn't some casual hobby or a celebrity fitness trend. It was a grueling, humbling discipline that she attacked with ferocious intensity. Think about that contrast for a second. One day she's on a runway, the next she's on a mat, drenched in sweat, learning how to apply chokes and joint locks. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, often called the gentle art, is all about leverage, grappling, and forcing a bigger opponent to submit. It's a universe away from the superficial world of fashion. In BJJ, your famous last name means nothing. Your looks mean nothing. The only things that matter are your technique, your toughness, and your will to win. For someone who spent her life being judged by her family name, the gym must have felt like the ultimate equalizer. And she wasn't just training. She was competing, entering BJJ tournaments, and putting her skills to the test against other trained martial artists. She won medals, building a reputation not as a celebrity's daughter, but as a legitimate and dangerous grappler. This was the first crucial step in building her own identity, one forged in grit, not glamour. This wasn't her father's Aikido. While both are respected martial arts, Aikido is often seen as more philosophical and defensive. BJJ is a competitive combat sport. This was her art. It was a skill she earned with her own sweat and dedication, completely separate from the long shadow of her parents. This foundation in legitimate combat would become the bedrock for everything that came next. It proved she had the heart of a fighter, and soon the whole world of combat sports would be forced to take notice. Number 4. The Gates of Olympus, the WWE tryout for most people. A successful modeling career and a background as a skilled martial artist would be the whole story. For Arissa Lebrock, it was just the prologue. The fire that was lit on the BJJ mats was now burning for a different kind of competition, one that blended the raw physicality of martial arts with the grand theater of Hollywood. And that fire led her to the most unlikely of destinations, the squared circle of professional wrestling. In December 2019, the wrestling world buzzed with the news. Arissa Lebrock had been invited to a multi-day tryout at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. For those who don't follow wrestling, the Performance Center is the heart of the W universe. It's a state-of-the-art facility where the next generation of global superstars are made. It's a dream factory, and a tryout is the ultimate job interview, a brutal, grueling test designed to push athletes to their absolute physical and mental limits. The drills are notoriously tough. Hours of conditioning, endless in-ring exercises, learning how to fall, how to move, how to perform. It's designed to weed out the pretenders. Many incredible athletes from other sports have failed to make it through a WWE tryout. The expectations on Arissa were huge. Skeptics might have seen it as a publicity stunt, a celebrity kid getting a shot she didn't earn. But WWE scouts saw the unique package, a recognizable name, a great presence, and most importantly, a legitimate combat sports background. Her BJJ training gave her an athletic base and a credibility that many prospects just don't have. This was her chance. Her shot to prove to the biggest wrestling company on the planet that she belonged. And then, in an instant, it all came crashing down. The exact details have been kept private, but a significant injury sustained around the time of the tryout brought her wrestling ambitions to a screeching, heartbreaking halt. Imagine that moment. You've made the life-altering choice to chase this impossible dream. You've put yourself through the ringer, standing on the edge of a new beginning. And then, your own body betrays you. The dream was over before it even really began. Number 5. The setback and the saint of second chances. For Arisa, the injury wasn't just a physical blow. It was a psychological one. The momentum was gone. The dream felt dead. What followed was a dark period of doubt. In her own words, she described becoming comfortable in the darkest, worst place in my life. The path to WWE was gone, and with it, maybe the passion that got her there in the first place. She was adrift, her future in combat sports looking like a closed chapter. And then, the phone rang. On the other end of the line was wrestling royalty. A living legend, a master of character, and one of the most respected minds in the entire industry, Dustin Rhodes. For wrestling fans, Dustin Rhodes needs no introduction. As Goldust in WWE, he created one of the most bizarre, controversial, and unforgettable characters in history. But beyond the face paint, he's the son of the legendary American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and a foundational piece of all elite wrestling. Dustin has earned universal respect for his incredible longevity, his masterful in-ring psychology, and his brilliant wrestling mind. When Dustin reached out to Arisa, he saw past the injury and the famous parents. He saw an athlete whose story was far from over. He offered her a second chance, a real chance. He invited her to move to Texas and train at his highly regarded school, the Rhodes Wrestling Academy. For Arisa, that phone call was the lifeline she desperately needed. It was the jolt that shook her from the darkness. She accepted. This was her second chance, but it was going to be different. The Rhodes Wrestling Academy isn't the polished corporate environment of the WWE Performance Center. It's a dojo in the truest sense, a place built on old-school principles, hard work, fundamentals, and a deep respect for the craft. Here, Arisa wasn't just a number in a mass tryout. She was a dedicated student under the direct mentorship of a master. She began the tough process of truly becoming a wrestler. As Rhodes put it, they started getting all her ducks in a row. She worked with personal trainers to rebuild her body, making sure she was physically and mentally ready. Under Rhodes's guidance, her BJJ background became the bedrock of her in-ring style. Dustin taught her how to translate her knowledge of grappling and submissions into the unique language of pro wrestling. Dustin himself was full of praise, noting her relentless work ethic and fast progress. He told reporters, "She's doing a great job, but this is only the beginning for her. Pretty soon the whole world's going to be talking about Arisa LeBrock." After months of grueling training, her moment of truth had finally arrived. In March 2023, Arisa LeBrock graduated from the Rhodes Wrestling Academy and competed in its student showcase, her official, public, in-ring debut. This wasn't in a massive arena under TV lights. It was in an intimate setting, in front of a small, knowledgeable crowd that understood the blood, sweat, and tears that went into that one moment. As she stepped through the ropes, she wasn't just Steven Seagal's daughter. She wasn't a model or a reality star. She was a wrestler. Someone who had overcome a serious injury, crushing self-doubt, and the darkness that followed. This was her comeback. And what the audience saw that night was a revelation. By all accounts, she was impressive. She wasn't just good for a rookie, she was dominant. Her in-ring style was described as aggressive, powerful, and utterly believable. She wasn't playing a wrestler. She was one. Commentators at the showcase were blown away. During one of her first matches, she showed incredible power, at one point grabbing an opponent by the throat and slamming her to the mat. One announcer noted that it would take a lot to get Arissa Lebrock off her feet, comparing her imposing presence to powerhouse wrestlers like Mia Jax or Nyla Rose. This is where her BJJ background became her superpower. She moved with a purpose and confidence that you just can't fake. When she grappled with opponents, it looked real because, for her, it was real. She blended vicious-looking strikes with technical holds, creating a hybrid style that was both brutal and intelligent. Her debut was a massive success. She had not only proven she belonged, but she had also established herself as an exciting new prospect. She had finally, definitively, stepped out of the shadow and into the spotlight completely on her own terms. Section 7. Forging her own path, the future is unwritten. So, what's next? Arissa Lebrock's debut has definitely put her on the map in the wrestling world. She has done what many thought was impossible. She has taken a famous last name and started to make it her own in a totally different arena. She proved she's not a novelty act. She is a legitimate, skilled, and charismatic performer with a sky-high ceiling. The obvious question is, where does she go from here? The two giants of North American wrestling, WE and AEW, are always on the lookout for new talent. A return to WWE, the place where her dream first ignited and then nearly died, would make for one heck of a redemption story. Imagine her walking back into the Performance Center, not as a hopeful rookie, but as a polished and proven performer ready to claim her spot. With her combat background, she fits the mold of other successful crossovers from martial arts like Ronda Rousey or Shayna Baszler. Then there's AEW, the home of her mentor Dustin Rhodes. It would be a natural fit, allowing her to keep developing under the man who gave her a second chance. AEW has championed many homegrown stars, and Arissa, with her unique story and skill set, could be a fantastic addition to their women's division. Her journey has parallels to other second-generation wrestlers who had to prove they were more than their last name, like Dustin himself. For now, she continues to sharpen her skills, building her name one match at a time. But the potential is undeniable. She represents a new kind of wrestling star, one who brings real-world authenticity to the larger-than-life world of sports entertainment. Her story is a powerful testament to resilience. It's about refusing to be defined by your parents, your past, or your setbacks. She faced the pressure of a Hollywood dynasty, the superficiality of the fashion world, and a career-threatening injury, and she overcame it all. She didn't just escape her father's shadow. She's creating her own. A shadow that now has the potential to loom large over the wrestling landscape. Steven Seagal was famous for being hard to kill on screen. Arissa Lebrock has proven that, in the real world, her dream is impossible to kill. What do you think of Arissa Lebrock's incredible journey from the runway to the wrestling ring? Do you see her future in WWE or IEW? And who would you want to see her face in a dream match? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. In the end, this is more than just a story about a celebrity's daughter. It's a story about identity. It's about the guts it takes to reject the path that's laid out for you and carve a new one through sheer force of will. Arissa Lebrock could have lived a comfortable life on her name alone, but she chose the hard road. She chose pain. She chose discipline. She chose the fight. And in doing so, she found herself. People are going to be talking about Arissa Lebrock for a long time to come, and it won't be because of who her father is, but because of the incredible force she's working to become.